Your relationship with money matters. I'm Michelle Perkins, and this is the Money and You podcast, where I will be breaking down your relationship with money, offering tough love money tips, and a money dating plan that will focus on lifting the barriers to success to help pave the way for better money practices and increased wealth. It's time to take control to live a limit-free life. It starts today. Hello, and welcome to the Limit Free Life Show. I'm your host, Michelle Perkins, and this show is dedicated to helping people to create a better relationship with their money, to learn a few practical things about money, and just to hear stories from experts and fascinating individuals out there who are relating to money as we all are in their own ways. And so I love talking to people about their careers, about their businesses, and about their money. All three tied together to help you create a limit-free life. I think creating a limit-free life requires a good relationship with money, a great income source that you love, whether that's a job or an entrepreneurial venture. And so I have a fabulous guest with me today. I have Catherine Gray, who's going to really help us understand angel investing, funding for businesses and for nonprofits. And she is a real expert in this field. She's created some amazing things herself. I'm super excited to bring her on because I am so curious myself about what she has to say about all of this and what she's up to. So great guest, and I'm very excited to bring her to you. I'm just going to tell you a little event that I was at Friday. I have a group on Friday mornings. We meet. It's a little small community that was created during COVID at the beginning when people were being furloughed and their businesses were, shutting down and everybody was confused. And so I just brought people from my community into this group to find support and inspiration and ways to pivot and all the stuff that was going on over a year ago now. And one of the lovely women in the community, Megan Kimberly, has a ranch called Prospector Ranch. She had a entertainment industry job before this and has turned her life into something new and is now, we call her a rancher. And this ranch is beautiful for film shoots, for any kind of events. And so we brought the locals from our group over to the ranch on Friday afternoon, and it was so fabulous. And it was the first time we'd gotten together in person, and I just really wanted to do a little shout out for Prospector Ranch. You can find it on Instagram, and it is just a wonderful place to visit and have an event if you are interested in such a thing. So let's talk now for a minute about something really interesting, and that is the gender funding gap that is experienced out there in the world by women. Inc. magazine talked about the fact that less than 3% of venture funding has gone to businesses with all female founders, which is kind of a sad state of affairs, considering that nearly 40% of all businesses in the U.S. are actually owned by women. So this is an interesting thing. I actually didn't know that these stats were quite so bleak. But it really creates difficulties for women who have great ideas and want to start businesses. So research shows that investors tend to back entrepreneurs who have similar backgrounds to their own. So this is really interesting. If a female entrepreneur is pitching to a room of all male VCs, she's very unlikely actually to receive funding. She's at a big disadvantage. When there aren't women in the room, there isn't anyone to see the entrepreneur's business from a female perspective, from a female point of view. And I found that really interesting. Today, less than 10% of decision makers at US VC firms are women. So if you are a woman, you're most likely speaking to men, and the cards are sort of stacked against you. So that I think is fascinating. It also is very much what Catherine Gray has put her attention to, and she's helping a great deal in that area. In terms of solutions here, Elizabeth Gore, CEO and founder of Alice, a virtual business accelerator for women, says keep pitching. Don't give up. The more we go out there and pitch, the more the tide will change on this. So I just wanted to introduce all of that so that you'll get a lot more information from Catherine. I'm going to read a little about Catherine right now so you can learn more about who she is, and then she's going to come on and talk about this problem and some of the solutions, some of which she's created, and then some other ways that we can address this issue. Catherine Gray is a film producer, author, TEDx speaker, and the host of Invest in Her podcast. You can find it at investinherpodcast.com. She's the founder of SheAngelsInvestors.com and the co-founder of a nonprofit, SheAngelsFoundation.org. Her focus is always on empowering female entrepreneurs. Her passion is to utilize their multimedia platform to fund women and level the playing field, since women are severely underfunded. Women get less than 2% of venture capital, and only 1.6% of charitable goes to initiatives for women and girls. Currently, her focus is on producing a new original series for streaming called Fund Women Save the World. Together with the She Angels Foundation co-founder, Catherine Curry-Williams, they travel to cities around the U.S., arriving via branded motor coach to provide grants to deserving female-founded nonprofits who are helping women, and investments to for-profit female-founded companies with groundbreaking business ideas. The show follows their backstory, receipt of their surprise investment, and mentorship, and a follow-up segment of their success due to the financial infusion and guidance. She also produces and hosts a popular podcast series called Invest in Her to discuss ways to accelerate the funding of women and provide resources and inspiration to their listeners. She features both female founders and funders. It's distributed on all the podcast platforms, and she's grateful and proud to have produced several award-winning films, including the very first documentary film about gay marriage called I Can't Marry You, narrated by Ellen DeGeneres' mom, Betty, which aired on PBS in more than 60 cities nationwide. Also, she co-produced several documentary films for the Logo Network. She Angels is her multimedia platform that creates everything from films and shows to game-changing events to empower women, such as the Live, Love, Thrive conferences, podcasts, and the She Angels Pitch Fest and TV series. She collaborates with the City of West Hollywood for the Pitch Fest. As the top producer in the country in cable television advertising in Miami for 15 years, she left the position to become vice president of advertising for the first ever gay cable network, and decided from that day forward, all of her ventures would be working on projects for the greater good. Wow, that's a lot. Love that. Catherine, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I love the work that you're doing to empower women with their finances.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have you here, and I think there's confusion out there about, the people who are having the ideas for a business or a nonprofit. They don't really know what it means to get funding. They don't. They have the brilliant idea, and everybody's telling them they should do it, but how?
I just want to say I'm so sorry, but there's leaf blowers going on behind me.
Totally fine.
Is it okay? You can't hear them?
I can't hear them. Sean?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all good then. This is the beauty of doing our podcast in our homes, in our home offices, right?
Right. And the leaf blower people always come when there's a phone call or a show or something.
Yeah, usually
right?
It's Mondays, so I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I digress, and I just want to say I love what you just said about you didn't know that women get less than 2% of venture capital funding, because that has been my experience for the last couple of years. Every time I tell someone that, they are shocked. And so it is not common knowledge, and I'm glad you brought that to everyone's attention. I recently did a TED Talk called Fund Women Save the World, and it was exactly about that, about how underfunded we are and why, for the very reasons that you just mentioned. And that is that there's not many female decision makers in the venture capital world or even in the angel investing world, and that does impact why we don't get funding. So it's exactly what you said. If you don't see yourself at that funding table, listening to your pitch, you probably won't get funding, because people do tend to invest in people they identify with. Mm-hmm. So if it's a majority of white men at the table that you're pitching, it's the reason that it's mostly white men that get the funding. Mm-hmm. They tend to invest in people they identify with, products they identify with. A woman gets up there and talks about a new innovative bra. These guys aren't going to get it. They're not going to get behind it for the most part.
Right.
Not 100%, but that is one of the reasons it's so low. And so, how are we going to change that? That's kind of the mission I'm on. So, everything I do, the Invest in Her podcast, the TV series I'm working on, is to educate people on how underfunded we are and how they can be part of the solution. And there's many ways to participate in being part of that solution. So, one of those is that not many women are angel investors, but more of us could be. We'll invest in a nonprofit, we'll invest in stocks and bonds and real estate. But we have to realize there's another whole dimension of investing that many men do that women don't. And that's investing in companies, investing in women that have innovative, groundbreaking ideas that'll help change the world. And you could be a part of that. So if you don't have that great idea, you could get behind a woman who does, and not only help them, but actually enhance your own financial success, because their success is your success when you're investing in them. So it's about getting into that world and learning about it. And now there's so many opportunities to learn about it. There's different entities popping up that will actually educate you on it. There's one here in Orange County called OSEA. Zandra Laskowski started it to train women about angel investing. And then they can go and hear the pitches and learn with a group of people, how do you assess if it's a good and solid investment. And so there's also Golden Seeds and Portfolia and many, many women's angel groups that are out there that are teaching women how to be angel investors. And so I call it like the new book club. Instead of going to a club and reading a new book and talking about that, you get to go to a group, learn about all these amazing innovations that women are coming up with, and you get to get behind them. I mean, I think, what could be more exciting than that, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. If you wouldn't mind, I'm not sure everybody knows the term angel investor. And I'd love for you to just kind of define that and show how that's a little bit different than, for example.
Sure.
Yeah.
So there's many ways that we can start improving the funding of women. Angel investing is one of those ways. And so angel investing, the word angel means you're like an angel that's come along and helped this business to start their business or grow their business. And that's why it's called angel investing. And so it just means that you've decided to take your funds and invest in that company as an investor, and it can be as like an equity partner. You could even partner, invest in someone that you could be a mentor to. So it just depends on the situation. But then there's also venture capital. And so women can be part of that as well. Those are called limited partners. And so you could be a limited partner in a venture capital where they pool their monies into a fund, and then they decide where those monies are going to be utilized, which companies they're going to get behind. And that's the area that is so lacking for women. So what we need is more young women in business schools deciding that they want to get into venture capital, because we need more women in venture capital positions that are decision makers. There's so very few, like you mentioned in your opening. And so the only way we're going to start getting more funding is if more women get involved in the venture capital world, and if more women become angel investors. And then here's another really cool thing, Michelle. There's a new way for people to become investors without being accredited. And what that means is, it used to be that only accredited investors could invest in a startup company or an existing company. That meant you had to have over $1 million in assets and over $250,000 a year in income. So that excluded a lot of people. But it started with Obama changing a law. He wrote into law that there could be equity crowdfunding. And so different companies have popped up that people can Google, like WeFunder and Republic. And they can start out being an investor for as little as like $100, $150, $200 to $500, like a little amount, so they can get their feet wet and start learning how to be an investor. And so what the laws did is said, you don't have to be you don't have to have $1 million in assets. You don't have to have 250 in income in order to be an equity crowdfunding investor. And this was revolutionary. And a lot of people still aren't even aware of it. And then more recently, just in the regular investment world, angel investing, they have decided that an accredited investor is now under a different definition. So you don't have to have the $1 million in assets or have the 250 income, but you just have to have a business degree and or be able to pass a test that shows that you have the knowledge of what you're doing in the investment world. And so the investment world has opened up so much just in the last, even from the last couple months to the last couple years, to make it more accessible to the average person. This is great for women because now more women are getting investment money. And the reason is it's very slow. We're still a long way to go, but more women are getting now money through equity crowdfunding, which is different than regular crowdfunding where you're just donating money. Equity crowdfunding means you own a piece of that company. And like I said, you could get in for as little as $50 or $100. So I hope this all makes sense, but the world of investing is changing and making it more possible for more women to get into it, which is good for women.
That's fantastic. Super interesting. So if there is a woman out there who does have an idea and is thinking, wow, I just can't, I can't do my idea because I don't have the funds and I don't have what it takes to get the funds. Where should that woman go? Who should she talk to?
Right. Well, first of all, people can go to our sheangelinvestors.com website and download a free white paper that tells you 6 different ways you can get funding. That's a good starting point. But I would also suggest that they look into opportunities of learning how to pitch, and then go to these angel investment groups that are getting behind women and pitch. And the best way to learn is to just do it, but I would prepare for it with another professional that knows what investors are looking for. And then each time you pitch, you're going to get better and better. And so that's one way to pitch to angel investors and venture capital firms like we just talked about. But like that can be a challenge. So if you think that's too challenging, an easier way is the equity crowdfunding. Like I mentioned, someone like WeFunder or Republic gives you an opportunity to do equity crowdfunding. So they will take you by the hand and show you how you promote it, wherein you're giving shares of your company to people for as little as $100, and you could get as many as 500 or 1,000 investors. And it's different than regular crowdfunding because that's where you're usually, giving away your product or, they're just donating. They're not becoming equity shareholders. But this is a whole new realm that people should be looking into. It's easy for them to do. People have raised millions of dollars through equity crowdfunding. So it is possible to use this new vehicle, and it's worth investigating that.
Right. Right. I love this. And I love the fact that not only do you have an opportunity for a new kind of investment that might, help you grow your own wealth, but also just the sense of fulfillment in doing this. It's a wonderful place to put your money because it's different than a stock, for example. It's a whole different thing. You're really part of someone's success. And another thing that Inc. article had mentioned that I've heard before is when you invest in women, you're really investing in the community because women give back to the community in frankly a bigger way. I mean, when you're putting your money towards women, they're helping their families, they're helping the community at large. So it has a real ripple effect out there in the world.
Yeah, and they tend to be more successful than male businesses too. So you're putting your money in a safer spot. And if you think back in history, I mentioned this in my TED Talk, the one that's called Fund Women Save the World, that there are so many women in history that have gone unnoticed, that have created things that have helped change the world. I mean, it's a woman that created central heating, that innovated car heaters, that innovated fire escapes, that innovated cataract surgery, machinery. So, it's women that have done things throughout history that have helped change the course of the world. And if they don't get funded, their ideas, their innovations, their cures won't be here. And that's why I say fund women, save the world, because otherwise you're missing out on all their amazing ideas and innovations.
Right, right. So fantastic. Can you give us some examples of some of the, the women that She Angels has funded, or, just some ideas
So,
of the
yeah,
variety even, so people can see?
sure. So what we do is um, we try to match people that are looking to fund their new business with uh, resources that can help them raise their money, and or investors. And then on the nonprofit side, sheangelsfoundation.org, we actually give grants to female founded nonprofits that are helping women to thrive. So this past year, we gave 10 grants. One of them was, for instance, to People's Pottery Project. They help formerly incarcerated women to learn the trade of making pottery. It's sold on their website, peoplespotteryproject.com. You can check it out and buy their products. And that helps these women get back on their feet and back in the workforce. There's another one that we got behind that helps veteran women get back in the swing of working and being in the workforce, because it's very difficult for them when they return. There's also we've also gotten behind, women of domestic violence, women that have survived cancer, all these different things that have been challenges for women to start their business, become an entrepreneur, or get back in the workforce. And so sheangelsfoundation.org, we're always looking for women to become members. And as a member, your tax-free donation, that's a membership, allows you to not only be part of collective giving so that you're helping other women that are needing a leg up, but you're also mingling with these exceptional women who are part of our community. And once you're a member, you can attend our salons, both online and in person, for free as a member, and network with other incredible women. And it's just a beautiful and wonderful dynamic that happens when you put altruistic women together. It's pure magic.
I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah, very exciting. And when people are coming, through the foundation or through your for-profit group, what do they need to bring to you to show that they're viable candidates for help in this area?
They just are looking for funding. I mean, it's that simple. They need funding and mentorship, and I try to connect them with the right resources for that. On the Invest in Her podcast, I always talk with either women that are looking for funding and then give them that platform to talk about that, which has also been a very viable way for people to get interested parties. They've done it from my podcast. And then Invest in Her podcast also, I often have on investors. So sometimes people that are looking for funding meet the investors by the guest I have on my show who invest in other entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs. So I always try to be a connector, try to collaborate people. That just brings me a lot of joy to connect people and see the incredible magic that happens when you put the right people together to collaborate.
Yeah, I love that. Do people need to come to you with a fully written out business plan? I mean, are there certain requirements that way that people need to pay attention to?
No, they would come to me and say, "Hey, I don't have a business plan." I'll say, "Well, here's a great resource for you." So I try to connect them with resources for what they don't have.
Okay.
Someone might say, "I have a great business plan, but I don't know how to get the funding." They might, need to learn how to put together a pitch. So I just have various resources that I would connect them with that. Really, that's what my platform is about.
Yeah.
How do I connect people with the right resources to help them realize their dream?
Wonderful. Okay. And because we talk about relationship with money on this show, I think this is a fascinating area because there is a lot of emotion that comes up and feelings about both asking for money, once they receive money, how they handle it. What do you find that that frightens some people? Do you find that they know how to manage the money once they receive it? What do you see?
I think two things about what you just said. One is about being afraid to ask for it. I work with a thought leader named Andrea Quinn, and I love her advice. And that is, when you're asking for it, hopefully you're working on your passion project, that you're the whole reason that you're here, your purpose on the planet. And so when you're asking for the funding, you're asking them to fund your purpose on the planet, not you personally. And that kind of helps remove the fear, I think, that if you know you have an idea that's so great that needs to come to fruition, that you should be fearless in asking for it, because you know it's essential to the benefit of the planet. So that's number one. The other thing you asked about was, you know what? I forgot the other thing you asked about.
Just how how they manage the money once they receive it, or do they?
Oh, right,
that
right. Great question. I think if you're not a financial person that works well with money once you receive it, that you should bring in an outside person. I'm always a big believer in you as an entrepreneur. Don't think you have to do everything, because this is why everybody has gifts in the world. Use other people's gifts, what they're good at, if you're not good at it, so that you can free yourself up to do more of what you're good at. So if bring in a financial advisor that could help you with the funds. You've brought in the funds. Now you have some funding to hire that person to help the best way to disseminate that funding so that you'll grow. So as an entrepreneur, we tend to be creatives. And I know you had said in a video I had watched of you, Michelle, that you just love entrepreneurs. And I'm the same way. I love their passion. I love how they're driven. Anybody thinks it's easy to be an entrepreneur. It's not. So if somebody is doing it, it's because they just really want to do what they love. And you have to admire that. I know I admire that. Yeah. And so I love that chutzpah, and I love that drive. And that's what you got to have in order to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. You just have to be so driven and so sure that what you're doing is your life's purpose, that you can't see anything else. Like, that's your intention, is to follow that road because it's meant to be. And then I really do believe if you have that mindset, that everything falls into place.
I love that. I love that because, well, first of all, I love people who tell entrepreneurs the truth, that it's not easy. People who are working in an organization think it just sounds like, it's a whole easy thing where you don't have a boss breathing down your neck anymore, and it's so different than that. I mean, as you know, so I love that, and I think that whole idea of having being clear about your vision and knowing why you're doing this, that's what gets you up in the morning to do the hard thing, to be the entrepreneur, and to keep you going when it feels overwhelming or whatever. So that is absolutely the foundational piece of it. And sometimes people overlook that piece. They just dive right into what they're doing, and they sort of lose track of that vision and why they're doing it. I think it's important to remind yourself every day of what this is about for you and how it's helping and who you're serving.
I agree. And not focusing on the how whatsoever, just completely focusing on the why, like you said, and taking all the actions and planting the seeds and doing all the work. It's not just dreaming about it. It's actually doing the work, and then it falls into place. You don't have to know how it's going to fall into place. It might fall into place differently than you thought it would, but it will fall into place if you keep the focus, the vision, and the purpose all in your heart every day, and take the actions every single day. Because I always say, if you do at least one thing toward your goal, the thing that you want to accomplish, if you take at least one action toward it every day, well, that's 365 actions a year. Do you think it's going to happen? I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact that you are providing the how, because I have a lot of these conversations with people too about, what's the vision, and they get so caught up in, but I don't know how to do that. And so then they go do something else or drop the whole idea. And you're actually providing the how with all the resources you have. So it's kind of a safety net for people. They can have their vision, and then, you have all the different, parts of the puzzle to help them figure out that how. So that's very cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think we provide thank you. I think we provide the stepping stones, and then they have to do the work.
Right.
And if they take the stepping stones and do the work, then yes, it will fall into place.
Yeah. And for yourself, you made a transition earlier on, and I think I mentioned that when I was talking about your bio. I mean, I can sense the passion that you have, and I understand the reason, but where was that pivot for you when you just decided to do this?
Well, I've always been a filmmaker, and I always believe it is film and television that helps change culture. And so, I've always been in advertising and filmmaking, and I started off, my first documentary was called I Can't Marry You, about same-sex marriage. And I just believed wholeheartedly if we educated people on it, that one day it would come to fruition. And here you go.
Yeah.
I just got married 3 years ago. I'm so happy about that.
Yeah.
So, I do believe it was all the films that came out, all the film and TV and movies that really impacted people's perception of marriage for gay people. And so that is what changed the tide. So a few years ago, I was putting on a conference for women. I felt like that was my calling, was to pull women together and include gay women in that, because a lot of times when there's conferences and whatnot, that I didn't feel like gay women felt a part of that. So I wanted to create events that included all women. I think we should all come together and help each other, all ethnicities, all sexualities, all ages. I think it's really important that women help women. And so when I started creating those conferences, I decided to add to it a pitch fest. And then I decided to film that and make a series out of that, because as a filmmaker, I always believed that, like I said, that's what's going to change culture. And so I thought, wow, when I learned how underfunded women were, I was as shocked as you were. And so I thought, we need to create a TV series about this, about how underfunded we are, to educate people and bring awareness, and then show them how they could get the funding, and then show them how they could become investors. And so that's what my multimedia platform is all about, from the TV series to the Invest in Her podcast, my TED Talk, and the She Angels Foundation. Everything I do is trying to create a multimedia platform that informs people how underfunded women are, why that is important to the world, and how we can change it, how they can change it as an audience member, to learn how they can be part of the solution.
Yeah, I agree. I think film and television have a powerful impact on changing people's thoughts and beliefs and ideas about things. So it's wonderful that you have that gift to put that out there. So yeah,
thank you.
Very impressive. And the show that I mentioned, is that a new show, or can people see that? Is it in the works?
Tell me about that's that. In the works.
Okay.
In the works. Yep.
Yeah, that sounds very exciting as well.
Thank you. That'll be on the air next year, and I'll be giving you an update and maybe come back and tell you all about it.
That would be great. That'd be great. Yeah, it sounds. It's. I keep thinking of Shark Tank as I talk to you, but how is this different, given that it's really women helping women?
It's so different. Shark Tank, it's men and women listening to some pitches of a few women, and mostly men. And I don't think the audience really gets to learn about how they would get investment dollars other than being on Shark Tank, and how they could become an investor. Because I think you look at Shark Tank and you think, oh, well, these guys are multimillionaires and they're investors, and isn't that nice? But you don't think of watching it and saying, oh, I could be an angel investor. I could help lift women up. And so that's why our show is all about women helping women and being involved as a participant.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. So, so what's coming up for you? I mean, the show, obviously. Anything else that you'd like to share with the audience? How they could get involved, or anything that might we may not have talked about so far that people might be interested in?
We just have some events coming up for our She Angels Foundation for our members and members to be. So, I'd love for people to check out sheangelsfoundation.org. We would love amazing women to become members, men too. We do think men should support their women, their daughters and sisters and wives and friends. And I know there's many men out there that want to support them. So we appreciate that. And the She Angels Foundation, only 1.6% of all charitable funding, goes to women and girls. So it is our focus to really make sure that we improve that through She Angels Foundation. Then She Angel Investors, like I said, you can go to sheangelinvestors.com and get a free white paper all about various ways that you can get funding for your business idea. And then, of course, would love to have you join us on Invest in Her, our podcast on Apple and Spotify and the others, because this is a great show for resources to learn either how to get funding or how to become an investor. And we have on investors and founders on the show every week. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, yeah. And one question about where a person needs to be. How far along in their business should they be? So they have, the light bulb moment and the idea. Do they need to have already started? Do they need to be, already at some point of maturity in their business? What's a good place to start?
No, some people just have an idea and they don't know where to begin, and we can help them with that. So no, I think it all starts with a seed idea, and that's what stands in the way sometimes is people say, like you said, they'll say, oh, I have this great idea, but I don't know where to begin. Well, yeah, we'd like to help you with that. Where do you begin? Who should you be talking to? Let's get that going. You got that download for a reason. It must be your purpose. And so I always say, follow those downloads, follow that instinct, because it's probably being downloaded to you because it's your purpose on the planet.
And thank you. And what do you do when you hear an idea that you actually don't think is one that you're, okay to fund? Do you give that person advice? How do you handle that? Or does it even happen?
Say, the majority of the time I love being in this space because the majority of the time I hear all these ideas and I'm always like blown away. I'm like, wow, what a great idea. Oh my God, that's amazing. I mean, everything from, food products to technologies to, I just recently myself invested in one called Good Goods that I think is amazing. It's like a social enterprise to Amazon. So every time you buy something on their site, you're helping something for the greater good. Like you buy a pair of socks, you're helping the rainforest. You buy a beautiful scarf, you're helping save the elephants. So Good Goods, which is spelled with U's, G-U-U-D and then GUUDS.com, I think is one of the innovative ones that I'm a big fan of. But I tell you, every week I see them on Republic. I see them on WeFunder. I see them, throughout our show. And I just think, for the most part, they're all pretty darn amazing and innovative and exciting to hear about.
That's fantastic. I know ideas are exciting, aren't they? I love them myself. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And you're obviously a person who can see the possibility in a lot of different things. So that makes you perfect, I think, for this role.
Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And I really do hope that anyone listening to the show will go onto your site. And again, want to mention those sites one more time?
Sure. sheangelinvestor.com and also sheangelsfoundation.org. And everything is our podcast and foundation and everything is located on the sheangelinvestors.com site.
Okay. And people should definitely tune in and watch your TED Talk and just so many valuable resources. So again, thank you so much for coming on. This has been fabulous. I feel like it just gives people a sense of hope and possibility that they could take an idea and really run with it and get the support, because as we know, you can't do these things alone. And so you're providing a great deal of support and financial support, which that can be the trickiest part. So that's really wonderful. So
thank you,
yes.
Michelle. I appreciate the work you're doing. It's so important that people, are focused on their finances and how to grow it. And I love the title of your program, "Live a Life," about living a limitless life. I think, gosh, who doesn't want to live a limitless life? I think that's a great way for us to end the program, is people thinking about that, because that's what entrepreneurship provides, I believe, living a
Right.
limitless life.
Yes, I agree. And you're providing a lot of avenues along those lines for independence and freedom and, service and making the world a better place. So thank you for that. And this is great. I really can't wait to, to see people come to your site, and for myself too. I'm inclined to
Yeah,
join
and
up
follow us
myself.
on social media. We're
Yeah.
both at She Angel Investors and She Angel Foundation, and also my name, Catherine Gray, at Invest in Her. So we look for you on social media as well.
Okay. All right, Catherine, thank you again. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Michelle.
Okay. So, audience, I hope that you will listen to this show and really take in what Catherine had to say. Fabulous information and advice. And really, I love what she's doing for people's relationship with money, because it's such a boost to feel like people out there actually want to fund your idea and fund your business and help you with it in a variety of ways. And you can really see the power of money, the positive power of money in that. When people want to help you and provide resources, and then those resources allow you to provide, others with a better life or new things that they need, it changes the way you think about money. It changes your beliefs around money, and that's all part of it. So to help you relate to money in a supportive and positive way. And that allows you to grow wealth, because you don't feel that resistance or that difficulty that a lot of people feel around money. You see it as a source of something better and a path to something better. So thank you so much for being here. I love having you here every week, Mondays at 7 p.m., ubngo.com. You can also find us on all the podcast platforms and the Limit Free Life YouTube channel. And I would really, every week, we give a tough love money tip. And this one, I think, is going to be a little different. As I was, looking at Catherine's sites and everything else, I started to think, where in your budget are you finding a spot for charitable giving in one way or another? And so I thought that would be a good tip for this week, is whatever the amount itself is not so important. Whatever you can do, if you can do it, I think that is really helps to create that better relationship with money, to know that not only are you worrying about earning, but you're taking some of those earnings and you're giving back. And I feel like that brings more of a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment from going out there and working and earning money. And I think that's really what this is all about. It's about, obviously, earning money and being able to pay your bills and all of that good stuff and go on vacations, but it's also about how can you give back. So I would see where you can fit that into your budget if you're not already doing it. If you are already doing it, maybe you want to relook at that line item and see if you can adjust that a little bit and find some different groups that you want to help and contribute to. So with that, that's our Tough Love Money tip. Every week we give them, and every week, just like Catherine had said earlier, if you do every weekly money tip, by the end of the year, you will have implemented quite a few changes in your financial life, and that can really be a big, powerful step in moving the needle on your wealth and your financial situation and your relationship with money. So listen to those money tips, implement them, and we will see you next week, and you can find me at limitfreelife.com. If you have questions, if you want us to talk about something specific on the show, please email me at michelle@limitfreelife.com. Love to hear from you, and have a great week. Your relationship with money matters. I'm Michelle Perkins, and this is the Money and You podcast, where I will be breaking down your relationship with money, offering tough love money tips, and a money dating plan that will focus on lifting the barriers to success to help pave the way for better money practices and increased wealth. It's time to take control to live a limit-free life. It starts today. Hello, and welcome to the Limit Free Life Show. I'm your host, Michelle Perkins, and this show is dedicated to helping people to create a better relationship with their money, to learn a few practical things about money, and just to hear stories from experts and fascinating individuals out there who are relating to money as we all are in their own ways. And so I love talking to people about their careers, about their businesses, and about their money. All three tied together to help you create a limit-free life. I think creating a limit-free life requires a good relationship with money, a great income source that you love, whether that's a job or an entrepreneurial venture. And so I have a fabulous guest with me today. I have Catherine Gray, who's going to really help us understand angel investing, funding for businesses and for nonprofits. And she is a real expert in this field. She's created some amazing things herself. I'm super excited to bring her on because I am so curious myself about what she has to say about all of this and what she's up to. So great guest, and I'm very excited to bring her to you. I'm just going to tell you a little event that I was at Friday. I have a group on Friday mornings. We meet. It's a little small community that was created during COVID at the beginning when people were being furloughed and their businesses were, shutting down and everybody was confused. And so I just brought people from my community into this group to find support and inspiration and ways to pivot and all the stuff that was going on over a year ago now. And one of the lovely women in the community, Megan Kimberly, has a ranch called Prospector Ranch. She had a entertainment industry job before this and has turned her life into something new and is now, we call her a rancher. And this ranch is beautiful for film shoots, for any kind of events. And so we brought the locals from our group over to the ranch on Friday afternoon, and it was so fabulous. And it was the first time we'd gotten together in person, and I just really wanted to do a little shout out for Prospector Ranch. You can find it on Instagram, and it is just a wonderful place to visit and have an event if you are interested in such a thing. So let's talk now for a minute about something really interesting, and that is the gender funding gap that is experienced out there in the world by women. Inc. magazine talked about the fact that less than 3% of venture funding has gone to businesses with all female founders, which is kind of a sad state of affairs, considering that nearly 40% of all businesses in the U.S. are actually owned by women. So this is an interesting thing. I actually didn't know that these stats were quite so bleak. But it really creates difficulties for women who have great ideas and want to start businesses. So research shows that investors tend to back entrepreneurs who have similar backgrounds to their own. So this is really interesting. If a female entrepreneur is pitching to a room of all male VCs, she's very unlikely, actually, to receive funding. She's at a big disadvantage. When there aren't women in the room, there isn't anyone to see the entrepreneur's business from a female perspective, from a female point of view. And I found that really interesting. Today, less than 10% of decision makers at US VC firms are women. So if you are a woman, you're most likely speaking to men, and the cards are sort of stacked against you. So that I think is fascinating. It also is very much what Catherine Gray has put her attention to, and she's helping a great deal in that area. In terms of solutions here, Elizabeth Gore, CEO and founder of Alice, a virtual business accelerator for women, says keep pitching. Don't give up. The more we go out there and pitch, the more the tide will change on this. So I just wanted to introduce all of that so that you'll get a lot more information from Catherine. I'm going to read a little about Catherine right now so you can learn more about who she is, and then she's going to come on and talk about this problem and some of the solutions, some of which she's created, and then some other ways that we can address this issue. Catherine Gray is a film producer, author, TEDx speaker, and the host of Invest in Her podcast. You can find it at investinherpodcast.com. She's the founder of She Angels.